I've always wanted to tackle H.P. Lovecraft. I've always wanted to do something with him. It's very hard because he describes indescribable horror. I mean, what is it? What does it look like? It drives people mad when they see it. So if you visualize too much of it, I think it may lose its punch.
On paper, it seemed like a sure thing. The master of horror cinema, John Carpenter, paying tribute to one of the cornerstones of horror literature, H.P. Lovecraft. Despite this pairing, though, In the Mouth of Madness was largely ignored by both critics and audiences when it was first released. Recently, though, it's gotten more of a following, with some even going so far as to call it Carpenter's last great film. So is it? Let's find out. John Carpenter is one of those directors that's had a lot of ups and downs in his career. Even though he created one of the most popular and enduring horror franchises with Halloween, a lot of his movies were dismissed or even outright hated at first, only getting appreciated years later. In a lot of ways, he's the ultimate cult classic director. In the Mouth of Madness is the third in what Carpenter calls his Apocalypse trilogy, which started with The Thing and continued with Prince of Darkness, an informal series of films connected by the theme of mankind's potential extinction, whether it's at the hands of aliens, demons, or in this case, a hack horror writer. Carpenter had used some Lovecraftian themes and imagery in his previous movies, but with this one he dove in head first. Even the title is an homage to Lovecraft's story At the Mountains of Madness. The script was written by New Line Cinema's then head of production, Michael DeLuca, who also wrote... Well, he wrote this one. Even though Carpenter was DeLuca's first choice to direct, he initially turned it down, with DeLuca shopping it around to other directors before Carpenter finally accepted. Maybe the experience of making Memoirs of an Invisible Man helped change his mind. Unfortunately, Carpenter didn't get as much of a budget as he wanted, which meant some of the more ambitious sequences had to be scaled back a bit. But then again, most of Carpenter's bigger budgeted movies tend not to do so well, so maybe that was for the best. So in 1994, In the Mouth of Madness premiered at some European film festivals before getting a wide release in North America the following year. Now this one isn't as well known as some of Carpenter's other movies like Halloween, The Thing, or even They Live, but I figure that just makes it the perfect candidate for the first movie of his I've talked about on this channel. It's a New Line Cinema release, so of course we start with the logo. Alright, that's not how it starts. Although, honestly, every time I see the New Line logo, that is sort of what I expect to happen. This might not have the Mortal Kombat theme, but if you were expecting one of Carpenter's usual moody synth scores, think again. Ever wanted to hear Metallica score an episode of How It's Made? Well... Also, even though this is largely inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, it's still produced by somebody whose name sort of sounds like Stephen King. Lovecraft stories usually involve people being driven mad by what they've seen, so it figures this one opens with a guy being dragged into an insane asylum. And don't go to a place run by John Glover. The guy looks like an evil toy maker. He's not gonna help you. Even though this is a horror movie, there are some flashes of humor here that I appreciate.
Look, I'm sorry about the balls! It was a lucky shot, that's all!
You know what? I think we need to hear that again.
I'm sorry about the balls!
Hey, I know something that'll cheer up all these rowdy nut jobs. Some soothing music.
You got to keep the dogs away. You got to keep the dogs at bay. You got to keep the dogs away. You got to keep the dogs at bay.
Okay, actually they play We've Only Just Begun by the Carpenters, which is clearly a subtle reference to the movie's wardrobe production assistant, Cody Carpenter. There are some nice little atmospheric details here, like the shadow appearing behind Sam Neill in his cell, but... It does have some of that schizophrenic horror movie editing that started in the 90s and got really bad around 2000 or so, but It's not too annoying here. Fun fact, the shots of the mental institution were actually of a water treatment plant just outside of Toronto. At least that's the story, since both the exterior and interior of this place looks like an old Arkham-style insane asylum. I'm not entirely convinced this place wasn't originally a sanitarium and they just converted it into a water treatment plant. Speaking of Arkham, this place is full of Batman villains. Not only is John Glover working the front desk, but Sam even gets a visit from Ra's al Ghul himself, David Warner.
I am he who is called Raish al Ghul.
Yeah, Ra's, Raish, whatever.
My name is Dr. Wren, and I'm going to try and get you out of here.
Yeah, by the looks of it, he belongs in here, Doc. Damn, I really want to make a Post Malone joke, but I already did one a couple episodes ago. Really jumped the gun on that one. He tells Dr. Wren how he got here, which means most of the movie is a flashback, although thankfully it doesn't have an annoying 2 weeks earlier title card like a newer movie would. Anyway, Sam Neill plays John Trent, an all-American insurance investigator with a New Zealand accent.
Robbie takes the view that it was you who burned down your own warehouse. See, we have these photographs of your wife tooling around town wearing various articles that you claim were destroyed in the fire.
You've also got pictures of your wife playing patty cake with Marvin Acme. You're the one who killed him, aren't you?
Trent, you were beautiful.
When it wasn't hard, Robbie, the guy's wife liked me.
You banged the guy's wife, didn't you? Okay, even if his accent's a little inconsistent, Sam Neill does do a good job here as Trent. He's cynical, even a little misanthropic at times.
We fucked up the air, the water, we fucked up each other. Why don't we finish the job by just flushing our brains down the toilet? Believe me, the sooner we're off the planet, the better.
But he's also got a cockiness to him that lets you know he's confident in his skills, at least at first anyway. Trent's next assignment is to find a missing horror writer by the name of Sutter Kane, but I don't know if he's up to it. He may be a good investigator, but his peripheral vision could use some work.
Do you read Sutter Kane?
Sorry, more of a George Stark guy myself. The weird eyes are a nice touch, but I'm curious as to why this guy has 70s movie trailer voice.
Do you read Sutter Kane?
They all wanted Slaughter, and they all got him. Jim Brown is Slaughter.
He gets gunned down by the police before he's able to hurt anybody, although I'm not really sure why Trent seems turned on by this. Even weirder, this apparently isn't the first time Kane's writing has led to violence.
Horror writer Sutter Kane, a harmless pop phenomenon or a deadly mad prophet of the printed page? When does fiction become religion? And are his fans dangerous?
And come on, it's the 90s. Shouldn't you be complaining about rap music and violent video games? If you needed any more proof this movie's Lovecraft inspired, boom, Cthulhu cameo. Not only that, but we also get a cameo from Charlton Heston as the head of the company that publishes Sutter Kane's books. You know, between this movie and True Lies, 1994 was a good year for Charlton Heston cameos. If you didn't already catch on that Sutter Kane's a popular author, the movie really spells it out for you.
Sutter Kane happens to be this century's most widely read author. You can forget about Stephen King. Kane outsells them all.
Yeah, suck it, Stephen. Kane's the real king of book sales. At least until J.K. Rowling comes along in a few years. Kane mysteriously went missing a couple months earlier before he could hand in a copy of his latest book, and the only one who's had any contact with him is his agent, who Trent is already familiar with.
That lunatic with the axe, that was Kane's agent? Yeah, well, you'd think a guy that outsells Stephen King could find better representation.
Look, the axe thing was unfortunate, but in his defense, he only took a 10% commission. Most agents take 15. Trent's assigned to find out what happened to Kane, even though he thinks the whole thing is a publicity stunt.
I think it's great. It's great promotion for our Kane. Great publicity.
Okay, hang on a second. So not only do you think Kane's mysterious disappearance is a publicity stunt, but also his agent going axe crazy and getting gunned down by the police? That is one dedicated agent. And I could be mistaken, but I think Trent might have the hots for Kane's editor.
Well, why don't you and I get together after work? We'll go through his files.
That makes sense. She can look good when she wants to. That is, assuming you don't make her mad. One thing I want to point out, this movie paints a very believable picture of Kane being a best-selling author. There's posters in alleyways, ads on buses, merchandise. Even the fake book covers they show in the movie look like something you could have seen in bookstores back in the 90s. I would say the only thing that isn't believable is Trent not being familiar with Kane despite being such a popular author, but there's YouTubers with tens of millions of subscribers I've never heard of, and I make YouTube videos for a living, so I don't know, maybe it's possible.
I picked up some of these Sutter Kane books, I've been reading them. They all seem to have the same plot, Slimy things in the dark, people go mad, they turn into monsters, But funny thing is that they're kind of better written than you expect, They sort of get to you in a way.
Also a pretty good description of Lovecraft's work. And see if you can guess what happens next.
Do you want some too, buddy?
That's right, fucking Maniac Cop.
He sees you. He sees you.
Hide your mamas. Big brother is coming. And he's coming on strong.
If this is all a publicity stunt to sell books, they're really dedicated, gotta give them that. Oh man, I gotta stick to reading John Grisham. Thank God it was just a dream. Okay, you know what, Trent? From now on, maybe limit yourself to just 2 whiskeys with your Ambien before bed. And come on, dude, just because the movie's Lovecraft-inspired does not mean you can get away with blackface, okay? Put down the shoe polish. Soon after reading his work, Trent makes a startling discovery. The covers of Kane's books all connect to form one image to encourage people to collect them all. He's a marketing genius. The covers form a map of New Hampshire, or possibly Vermont if you flip it upside down. It also shows the location of a town called Hobb's End that Kane sets all his books in, which is kind of this movie's version of Lovecraft's Innsmouth, or maybe Stephen King's Castle Rock.
You can forget about Stephen King.
Alright, look, lady, this movie's mainly Lovecraft-inspired, but there is clearly some King in there. Even though it's not on any conventional map, Trent's convinced Hobb's End is a real place, and that's where Kane is hiding.
Since I assume you also have nothing to hide, I'm sure you won't mind if I send Miss Stiles along on your expedition.
Hey, that works out for him. I'm pretty sure he's been trying to bang her this whole time. I'm sure they'll get along great.
Hey, you're awake.
Hey, whoa.
Smooth one, bro. I don't know if Hobbs End's around here, but you'll probably find the Children of the Corn. Well, got a long drive through New England. Better make some conversation.
I just like being scared. Kane's work scares me.
What's to be scared about? It's not like it's real or anything.
Well, not yet, but just give it some time.
A reality is just what we tell each other it is. If the insane were to become the majority, you would find yourself locked in a padded cell.
Alright, look, we already saw the beginning, lady. No need to rehash it. Not much scenery out here, but occasionally you might run into a roving John Carpenter on a bicycle. Okay, don't freak out, Styles. You just saved the world from ghosts of Mars and the Ward. Well, vampires was kind of fun, I guess. Alright, as much as I joke, I do love the build-up and sense of creeping insanity as they drive out to Hobbs End. Stuff like the road slowly fading away, clouds appearing underneath the car. There's some really creepy, surreal images here. Even the choppy 90s, early 2000s style editing kind of works.
I can't believe it. I must have slept through the whole night.
Did I miss anything weird? Welcome to Hobbs End, home of Sutter Kane and the world's biggest bowl of clam chowder. The Hobbs End scenes were filmed in Markham, Ontario, and I wonder if Carpenter chose to film in a place that's one letter away from Arkham on purpose. As if this town wasn't already creepy enough with its roving gangs of mutant slow-motion kids. But the only hotel in town is staffed by Twin Peaks' Lin Shaye here. Actually, considering this is a New Line Cinema release, I'm a little surprised that isn't Lin Shaye. This town may be kind of boring, but on the plus side, the hotel comes with a magic eye painting that moves even if you don't stare at it. Even creepier, Styles points out that Hobbs End is exactly like it's described in Kane's books, right down to a creepy church that is a real location in Markham, Ontario. I wonder if this place has become a tourist attraction for fans of the movie. And if anyone still doubts the Lovecraft influence here.
This place had once been the seat of an evil older than mankind and wider than the known universe.
That is a direct quote from a Lovecraft story.
It was a place of pain and suffering beyond human understanding.
Their bake sales echoed with the screams of 1,000,000 damned souls, the air thick with the stench of rotting flesh and stale lemon bars.
Well, it wouldn't be a small town in a horror movie without an angry, gun-toting mob. And apparently Hobbs End is also the village of the damned. That's Carpenter's next movie, damn it! We now get our first look at Sutter Kane, played by Jürgen Prochnow. And if you want to know how badass he is, even Vigo the Carpathian is afraid of him. Okay, well, you found Kane. You can probably go home now, right?
about that mob? Tell me that, Because I'll tell you how. This whole thing has been staged, that's how.
Okay, if this is just a publicity stunt, I gotta give Kane's publisher points for sheer audacity. Not many companies are willing to maim and murder people just to sell some books. Amazingly, Styles admits that Kane's disappearance originally was a publicity stunt, but Hobbs End being a real place wasn't part of the plan, and some of the events they've experienced are part of Kane's new book.
What's it about, the new one?
It's about the end. To everything. It's about people turning into things.
No, that was the first part of the Apocalypse trilogy. Well, if reality's unfolding like Kane's new book, good news, Trent. There's a chapter where you get laid.
Have a nice bus ride home.
Well, that is unless you cockblock yourself. And if you're still convinced this is all a publicity stunt, explain why the lobby painting looks like Thomas Kincaid by way of Junji Ito now.
Just on my way out, I thought I'd stop and admire the artwork. You look as if you've been up all night.
Well, yeah, by the looks of it, her and her husband seem to be into some pretty kinky shit. Styles ends up taking the car and leaving. Nothing left to do now but get drunk at the local bar.
You're a writer? No. You an actor?
Yeah, I already said he was Vigo. That's not a joke. It's actually the same guy.
Can I buy you a beer?
Well, even though Styles is gone, once he gets enough drinks in him, I guess Trent can go home with this guy. Speaking of Styles, what's she doing? Oh, just hanging out with some Hobbs End garbage pail kids.
You're my mommy. Know what today is? Today is Mommy's Day.
Pretty reasonable response to that. Huh, well, this church is definitely creepy, but it could be one that has blood orgies, so it might be worth checking out. It's a pretty good time as long as you're not the one getting sacrificed. At this point, we learn Kane's writing is influencing not just the town, but reality itself, and that he's actually channeling the power of ancient gods who will reclaim the earth once his latest novel is published. An idea that is definitely Lovecraftian in nature, just with an extra layer of 90s meta on top of it, although it's not as thick as it would get later on in the decade. Not only that, but this is one of the first Lovecraft-inspired movies to have a decent budget, which means we get great imagery like Kane manifesting Quato's demonic cousin here. As you can imagine, this all has quite an effect on Styles. She's gone jump scare crazy.
I'm losing me, John. Help me. I'm losing me.
Well, even if she's been driven mad by seeing unspeakable horrors, you could probably still bang her. Better get some ice from the lobby first, though. You know, I'm beginning to think there's something funny going on. Even if the effects aren't as groundbreaking or memorable as in The Thing, there's still some great body horror stuff here, and the majority is done practically courtesy of K&B Effects Group. As good as it is, watching this really makes me wonder what Carpenter could have done if he had got the budget he originally wanted. Hey, don't leave just yet, Trent. You'll miss the town's annual Wicker Man sacrifice.
Special effects. Hidden speakers, you people are professionals, I'll give you that.
Okay, dude, at this point, I really don't think it's a publicity stunt.
This is not reality!
Reality is not what it used to be.
Hey, that's a good tagline. The movie floats out the idea that not only is the town a creation of Sutter Kane's, but the inhabitants are all just characters in one of his stories, leading to great lines like this one.
I have to, he wrote me this way.
New Hampshire, you may visit for a few days, but you'll be eternally damned forever. Time to get the hell out of here and leave a bad review on TripAdvisor.
Kane's writing me. He wants me to kiss you.
Why?
Because it's good for the book.
Jesus!
Wow, you are really determined not to get laid, aren't you? Actually, Trent may be right. There's something a little off about Styles. Now, a lot of horror flicks have done stuff similar to this, but newer ones would probably use CGI. Really though, you can't go wrong with just having a contortionist wear an upside-down mask. There's even more surreal happenings, like Trent just ending up back in Hobbs End every time he tries to leave. This place is like Hotel California by way of Rob Zombie. Alright, Sam, time to confess your sins. We'll start with Omen 3 and then move on to Jurassic World Dominion.
Your book sounds real.
But they've sold over 1 billion copies. More people believe in my work than believe in the Bible.
Oh, pulling the old bigger than Jesus line, huh? Well, now we'll have to burn your books alongside some Beatles albums.
Anyway,
Your books suck.
Ooh, shouldn't have said that, pal. Sutter Kane does not take criticism well. Kane tells Trent it's his job to bring back the manuscript for his latest book, which will enable the old ones to retake the Earth, and he also learns that he too is just another character in Kane's story, which leads to yet another great line.
I'm not a piece of fiction.
I think therefore you are.
Look, Kane, if you want him to believe you, just write him as less of a skeptic. It's pretty simple. Even if Carpenter didn't end up getting the budget he wanted, there are still some really cool visuals in this. Hell, even the 90s CGI is used really effectively here. They didn't forget about the practical effects though, like this part where Trent is chased by some of the aforementioned old ones created by K&B again. They're only glimpsed very briefly, which is a bit of a shame considering all the work that clearly went into them behind the scenes. But through the use of freeze frame, we can get a clear shot of them. And yeah, they do look like something from Lovecraft, or possibly the real Ghostbusters cartoon. Good news, Trent, you escaped the monsters. Bad news, you're still in New Hampshire.
Want a paper?
Piss off, Hayden Christensen. I've already name-dropped enough actors in this movie. Well, time for Trent to make his way back home. He doesn't have any gas or grass, so it looks like he'll have to pay with ass. Despite everything he's been through, Trent still isn't entirely convinced this isn't just a publicity stunt. Even though he left the manuscript for Kane's novel behind, Trent still receives it at the motel he's staying at. No, what are you doing? Don't burn it! Sell it as an exclusive like that Wu-Tang album the Farmer Bro bought. It'd still be evil, but at least you'll make some money. Well, with all Trent's been through so far, there is only one thing that can top it in terms of sheer terror.
I remember New York during the Depression. People think they have it bad now. You should have seen the Bowery back then.
That's right, sitting next to a yappy old lady on a bus. Oh, thank God, the evil architect of the apocalypse is here. Maybe now I can get some decent conversation.
Did I ever tell you my favorite color was blue?
Alright, now contrary to popular belief, Trent isn't screaming because he now realizes Kane's power is real and that he might actually just be a fictional character in one of his stories. He's screaming because he's next to that fucking old lady again. Things are really starting to unravel here. Not only does Trent learn that Hobbs End isn't a real place, but Charlton Heston doesn't believe his story either. By the way, what the hell happened to Styles?
Styles? Oh, that's the girl you say I sent with you. But I know I sent you off alone.
Oh. Okay, that explains it.
Well, that's easy. She was written out.
Ah, the old Chuck Cunningham syndrome. Also, despite burning the manuscript earlier, Trent learns that he already handed it in months ago and the book's already been published. And that ain't all.
I know this book will drive people crazy.
Well, let's hope so. The movie comes out next month.
Look, it'll be great. We even got John Carpenter to direct. Probably won't do great box office, but people will appreciate it with time. Alright, I know I already mentioned J.K. Rowling, but the scenes of Kane's fans obsessively lining up to buy his new book does have some parallels to Harry Potter later on.
Like the books?
I love it.
Well, they better not split the movie adaptation into 2 parts. Hate it when they do that. It's safe to say, though, that Trent thinks Kane's a little overrated. This leads us back to the beginning, where we learn Kane's book is spreading insanity and chaos throughout the world.
What about the people who don't read? There's a movie.
Oh yeah, but it's not like it's gonna be one of Carpenter's bigger hits. I mean, even Ghosts of Mars will end up making more than this one. By the way, I'm not joking. Ghosts of Mars technically made more at the box office than this one did. As crazy as Trent's story is, I think there may be something to it.
Thinks it's fiction, and that Sutter Kane's causing the epidemic.
Do you read Sutter Kane?
No, but David Warner is familiar with H.P. Lovecraft. I mentioned that Carpenter didn't get the budget he originally wanted, and as a result, when the apocalypse comes, it's a little subdued. It's just Trent walking out into some empty streets, with some chatter on the radio talking about the population descending into mass hysteria and people mutating into monsters. But it is still pretty effective. The capper, of course, is the meta ending where Trent goes to a theater to watch In the Mouth of Madness, and hey, they did get John Carpenter to direct. Theater looks a little empty. I guess everyone else must be watching Legends of the Fall.
You hear me? I'm not insane!
You know, some people didn't like this ending, calling it confusing, but I think it fits perfectly. In the other two entries in Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy, it was ambiguous as to whether or not the threat to the world had truly been defeated. But in this one, nope, it's the fucking end. The best thing you can do now is laugh about it. While not as catastrophic as some of Carpenter's other movies, In the Mouth of Madness was still a disappointment at the box office and got only mediocre reviews when it was first released, but in the years since, opinion of it's grown more positive. Alright, well that's pretty much par for the course with Carpenter. Other than Halloween, that's basically the story of his entire career. Like I said, the movie's critical reassessment has been so big that some people consider this to be Carpenter's last great movie. Personally, I wouldn't put this on par with Carpenter's best work like The Thing, but it is the best movie he's directed since the start of the 90s. It's ambitious, weird, and has a ton of memorable body horror images, and as far as the Lovecraft influence goes, it really nails the whole cosmic horror, people driven insane by unspeakable terrors aspect. Ironically enough, it's one of the best Lovecraft-style horror movies out there, even though it's technically not based on a Lovecraft story. Despite developing a following, this still isn't one of Carpenter's better-known films, so if you're someone who wrote him off after the 80s, give this one a look. So there you go, I did a good movie, which means next episode, it's back to some schlock. Well, that's all for now. Until next time.
Never, never, never throw chips at a driver.